Hello, you lovely listeners. I'm Amy. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast, where we will delve into the minds of the business people we have met in the process of launching our first card game. We will be uncovering their secrets to success, their biggest mistakes, and sharing the key lessons they have picked up en route. So, if you're looking for an engaging chinwag mixed with business insights and a good pinch of fun, you're in the right place. Let's have a really good conversation. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast. Today, I am welcoming Ben Taylor, co-founder of Rome. I'm very excited to chat to Ben today because we have actually known each other for almost 20 years and we actually did the same course at university. So Ben, I cannot believe we're actually sitting here 20 years on. You have a company that's essentially a sex brand. And I'm on a podcast, which didn't exist like 20 years ago.
No, probably not where I thought I'd be if you'd have asked me 20 years ago what I'm going to be doing at the ripe age of 37, but here we are.
It is. So let me introduce you officially. You launched Rome, sort of going on 2 years ago, on a mission to make the world a more sex-positive place. So tell me and our listeners, how on earth you got into pursuing a sex brand?
It's a very good question and one I get often. I started my career in FMCG. So I had the majority of my career was spent at L'Oreal, and I worked across a number of different functions, both commercial, marketing, strategy here in the UK and globally from the Paris office. And I think I just got to the point where I was ready to make that step. I've always had like an entrepreneurial aspiration. My parents were restaurateurs. I grew up in the hospitality industry. They had their own business. So it almost felt counterintuitive when I went to work for someone else. But I knew that that's where I needed to cut my teeth and learn skills and develop and grow so that one day I could start my own business. So it was actually when I was in Paris and I shared my want to start my own business, my own brand with my now co-founder, Alex. And, you know, he was interested as well. And we explored various different ideas. And then Alex then left Paris and he went to work for Harry's, the men's shaving firm. And whilst he was there, he was exploring his sexuality. And he went into a boot store and he was met with this deep sense of shame. And initially he thought it was about him coming out and his sexuality. But actually when he left the store and he reflected on it, he realized that he felt exactly the same when he was in a straight relationship. And so he called me up and he said, look, I've had this insight, like come back, have a drink. I want to talk to you about this idea. So I came back and he said, you know, I've had this idea born from this insight. What do you think? My initial reaction was like, Al, I'm a Yorkshire lad. You know, I've spent the last 10 years justifying why I'm selling makeup and face cream to women. Now you want me to sell Lube and Johnny's? Like, no chance. and then the more I thought about it, the more it just made absolute sense. So when I thought about it from a consumer perspective, there's lack of choice in the category. Like consumers can only name one brand, and that's Durex.
Yes.
And when you ask them why they buy Durex, they tend to say, well, I've always bought it, or it's the brand that I know. You know, they don't have any sort of particular connection with that brand beyond function. And then from a retailer perspective, there's little growth in the category because I think a byproduct of a monopoly is lack of innovation, lack of above the line marketing that drives desirability and ultimately growth. And from a brand perspective, there's so much conversation happening around sex, sexual health, gender, and yet there's no brand leading that really positive conversation. And actually, if you think about the way the incumbent brands have built their brands, it's always been built on performance. So use our condoms and last longer. And that it really exacerbates consumer insecurity. And that is what perpetuates the stigma that we have in society surrounding sex. And that's why it feels that's why we think it feels uncomfortable buying sexual wellness, because we're all ashamed. So really there was a strong social mission that like we quickly connected with, and we quickly realized that we could sort of be the driving force behind. And that was really initially about destigmatizing the category and providing consumers with the comfort and confidence to explore sex, be that with a partner or at fixture in store.
Wow, that is an amazing sort of insight and journey. And what did your mum say when you told her you were going to go down this path? You were going to move from makeup into sexual wellness.
Yeah, my mum is supportive. Like she's so supportive, and she's so proud. I think it took her a little bit of time to think about the narrative in her mind. She used to like sort of telling her friends that her eldest works for L'Oreal and she gets all the free makeup and skincare. And I don't think she could quite figure out how she was going to explain to her friends that her eldest son had transitioned from selling makeup to selling lube. And I think initially she was a little bit uncertain as to how serious we were. And like in time, she's realized that we've got an incredible opportunity, and she's seen the personal and professional development that's come from it, and I think she's very happy. All that being said, she still hasn't told her mother what I do, so my granny thinks that I'm still at L'Oreal. So I've still got some work to do on breaking down the stigma, but my mission's not quite done.
And that's a thing. Your mum probably loved any makeup samples she might have got. So she's probably most disappointed to think, well, what am I going to do with these samples of condoms, lube, devices, libido tablets?
Makes for interesting dinner time conversation.
Absolutely. And that is a thought as well. Obviously, for a lot of brands, user testing is a part of researching. How do you guys go about user testing the various products?
Is
it just you and Alex testing them?
Yeah, it's a lot of time spent. We're fortunate in that we're a direct consumer brand, and we've got a really highly engaged community, and so we send product out to our customer base and get their feedback. And we have a private Facebook group where we get live feedback, and everyone's really receptive on sharing the feedback and enabling us to iterate on the product.
That's fantastic, and that is a new way of doing it. So I'm glad you actually told us about that. Not too sure how you'd feel if people start doing the live streaming of testing in your Facebook group. I mean, what are the rules around how much information people share?
That's true.
What's your thoughts on how people can get more comfortable about the topic of sex?
I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think you're right. There needs to be real reform in education, and like we've talked a lot about like how we can support that as a brand, and I think it's a really interesting like opportunity for us to I think work with the government to reform sex education. It is still like highly functional, and there's little, if not no, mention of pleasure. And so I think there's a huge opportunity, and the fact is that kids get their education from porn, and that's creating just a myriad of problems for young adults growing up with just incorrect expectations of what sex is about, and how you should connect with other people. And so there's a real opportunity for us as a brand to step into that space. And as we've been on this journey and we've understood what consumers expect from us, like education is always at the top of the list. So we do a lot of collaboration with experts. We create a lot of content, and we try and do it in a way that it invites people into the conversation. So we're not an activist brand that's at the picket fence. We're about providing people with the comfort and confidence to explore, and we're about inviting people in and giving them the tools to educate themselves and to learn. And it's so interesting if you can do that in the right way with the right tone of voice, and you can give people the license to start that conversation, you'll find that they don't want to stop because there's so much for them to learn, there's so much for them to share. And so like a big part of our brand strategy is about creating community and providing people with content, with advice, with information so that they can explore.
That certainly comes through on your website. A lot of great content, blogs and articles on there. I think that's, really worth people checking out. So from looking at the brand, innovation and sustainability seem really key for the brand. And obviously you had a really important inclusion of the first skin tone condoms. Why is innovation important to you?
Very good question. I think it comes back to lack of choice in the category. And again, a byproduct of a monopoly being lack of innovation and therefore like category growth, which benefits everyone. And so I guess my commercial perspective on the opportunity was that if we can come in and really get under the skin of consumers, understand what their needs are, what their desires are, and create products, ideally that don't currently exist, that help them or address pain points or address certain needs states, then we're gonna advance the category. We're gonna provide consumers with better products, with more choice. We're gonna help grow the category for retailers, and we're gonna hopefully build a sustainable brand. So I think innovation is really key. We're still at a really early stage of our growth, so we try to be really careful with the way in which we innovate. So we try not to innovate for innovation's sake, but we think about sort of incremental need states, and we're continually speaking with our customers. So we have weekly callbacks, we send out type forms, we speak to customers in our forums, and we understand what their needs are, and then we try and create sort of products that are truly incremental to our business, and hopefully help grow the category for our retail partners. So I think innovation is key, and we're going to continue to innovate into the future, and hopefully try and address some pain points in the category that aren't currently addressed.
And when we talk about sustainability, which is, has been a hot topic for a couple of years now, but how much more complexities does being sustainable, aiming to be sustainable, actually make for the business?
I think that being sustainable, it has always been sort of central to what we're doing. I think it's something that we always endeavor to do. However, it's like, you get some brands like Wild or Fussy deodorant, for example, or Life Supplies, and their central thesis is about sustainability. It's about eradicating single-use plastic. It's about really changing the way that consumers shop, changing those habits. Our purpose is about destigmatizing the category and providing consumers with choice. So we always think about sustainability. So all of our plastic bottles, for example, are ocean plastic. So they're fully recycled and recyclable. All of our card, again, is fully recycled and recyclable. We source our rubber from sustainable sources, so Regenerative Rubber Initiative and fair trade rubber. And so it's always front of mind, and we'll always endeavor to be more sustainable. Even our condom, the primary foil of the condom is 40% less plastic than every other condom packet that you'll find in the UK. So we always try and sort of do what's right for our consumers and what's right for the planet. Of course, it adds complexity and it adds cost, but we believe it's the right thing to do. And we believe that our consumer is important enough for our customers, and they're subsequently willing to pay more for a product that is good for the environment.
Yeah, and that's really the thing that some customers can forget, that to put these sustainable measures in place with the packaging or even the physical product that something is made out often will cost more. And that can be the trade-off. A lot of people are saying, oh, yes, I'm very, try to be eco-friendly and, recycle, use, and I only want to, purchase sustainably. But reality is that may come with that higher price tag. And so I think we, as consumers around the world, need to be prepared that, we all need to make the difference as well. It's not just the brands as well. The brands putting in those efforts. It's actually the consumers equally matching that effort with that slightly higher price point, if it so is.
It is, but I think it'll become the norm, and that's why I'm in such admiration of those brands where sustainability is absolutely central to their thesis, and that is ultimately their innovation. They are innovating on that.
Brilliant. So let's talk a bit about Rome is a digital first brand. And I'd love to know, your experiences, pros and cons with the e-commerce landscape versus getting into retailers and on the high street.
Very good question. My background is traditional FMCG. So when I started this brand, I was starting a direct-to-consumer digital brand. So it was whilst it was still in the consumer product space, it was an entirely new model that I was pursuing, and I was super excited about building a direct-to-consumer brand, predominantly because you have that direct relationship with the customer. You're selling direct to your customers, and you're getting direct feedback from your customers. You're constantly building data that enables you to personalize your communications and the product in time, and there's intrinsic value in that. It's a very, very different model to a traditional retail model, and there is an opportunity, if you can get the fundamentals right, if you can get the unit economics right, there's an incredible opportunity to scale a brand direct to consumer in a really, really efficient way. But there are certain things, global macroeconomic considerations with it, which are making it harder. So the restriction on data impacting the cost of acquiring customers digitally through things like Facebook or Google. And so you really need to work hard on ensuring that the economics make sense, and that the lifetime value that you're getting from a customer far outweighs the cost of acquiring that customer, and that's absolutely fundamental. With Rome, we started direct to consumer, and we tested a condom subscription model, and then we quickly realized that not everyone wants condoms on subscription. And actually, when we stepped back and we thought about all the different usage occasions, we realized that actually there's lots of different shopping occasions. Some people are buying condoms as a planned purchase because they use condoms as their primary form of contraception on a regular basis, and therefore maybe a condom subscription makes sense. Other people need to pick up a packet of condoms from their local grocery store like immediately.
Impulsive, they've got to be.
Impulse. So we realized then that availability was really key, and therefore we needed to increase our distribution. But we wanted to do that in a really considered way, because we are still very early stage, and when you start adding different channels to your business, it adds complexity, it adds cost. And so we wanted to be really structured and careful in the way in which we built that out. So we started direct to consumer with a subscription business. Then we went to a more standard e-com model where people could purchase one-off. And then we launched in Amazon in October this time last year. And that has proven to be incremental. There's so much search is happening on Amazon. It's a channel you can't really ignore. And more recently, we've been fortunate enough to partner with Boots. So we launched our skin tone condoms, which was a world first innovation, into Boots in April, and we're really excited to be launching into Superdrug and Sainsburys later this month.
Wonderful. That is impressive, especially for sort of just two years in. There's a huge range of product innovation you've been doing, the building that audience and taking it to store. And I think what's really great is by you starting that direct consumer journey, as you've said earlier, you're building a brand and creating the brand with the consumers, and then taking it to retail. So exactly. if you almost had done it the other way around, you potentially would be, going into retail, without as much of that consumer input.
Exactly. And that always was the intention. It was about really really having that direct conversation with our customers, and then taking that consumer insight to our retail partners to say, look, this is our consumer base, and this is the incremental consumer that we can bring to your business. These are their needs. This is therefore the portfolio of products that we've created, and we want to help you to grow this category and have a more holistic offering. And so it's come a little bit sooner than we anticipated. I thought that we'd develop the business direct to consumer for a longer period of time, but the opportunity came around, and I feel really grateful to be listed in 3 of the UK's largest health and beauty retailers at such an early stage. We only launched at the beginning of last year, and I'm super excited. I'm also very cognizant that we're still at the early stage, and we've still got a lot of feedback to get from our customers, and we still want to iterate on the product, and we still want to innovate, but we'll be doing that in partnership with Superdrug, Sainsburys and Boots. So super excited.
What a journey. Now this as well, for some people listening, this can all sound quite too good to be true as well in, a relatively short space of time. But the reality is a lot of the hard work, energy and effort and time that yourself, Alex, and the team have put into this, does create a lot of time, but also investment and capital. And, you guys have gone into that capital world of raising funds. What's been your experiences of that side of it?
It's certainly a journey that we've been on. We were very fortunate to raise capital at an early stage of the business. It was a necessity because of the development cost of the product, the minimum order quantities, the cost of developing the website. But we brought on some great partners. At the beginning of last year, we came out to raise our seed, and the market unfortunately turned, and it became a much more difficult financial market to raise capital in, especially for a consumer product business. Consumer product went out of vogue. Investors were acutely aware of the rising cost of acquisition, and therefore they needed more certainty on the business model, on the data, and it was a very, very difficult context to raise capital in. We're very fortunate in that we managed to raise. So we closed our seed round in November last year, and we then did a media for equity deal with Channel 4. So again, we realized there was very little above the line media in the category, and we thought that an above the line campaign in collaboration with Channel 4 and an incredible creative agency that we've partnered with called The Or, we felt that bringing an above the line campaign to market would really help to drive credibility and trust for the brand, but also intrigue and desirability from customers, and ultimately help drive category growth. So we did the media for equity deal, and came into this year with real clarity on our go-to-market strategy, focusing really clearly direct to consumer on Amazon and in select national retail. And we've just been head down, focusing on, really executing against the strategy. And it's been really tough. We've learned an incredible amount, and all of that learning is from making mistakes. And so the cliche of it being a roller coaster is absolutely true. But when I stop and look back at what we've achieved, which we don't do enough of, but when I do, I'm super proud of what the team has collectively delivered.
Yes, what a journey. And yeah, it's a roller coaster. We were chatting about this before, weren't we? And we're actually recording this on what is World Mental Health Day, 10th of October. So through all of this wild roller coaster that you've been on, how do you, I guess, keep calm in these crazy scenarios, or do things to, I guess, make your mental health that bit stronger or protected?
Yeah, learn to dance in the rain. I got help very early on. So when I left L'Oreal, I thought that I had the maturity and the resilience and the perspective to do it. And then when you actually do go on your own and you don't have the support, all of the support network that you have around you in a corporate, you quickly realize that you've got a huge learning curve ahead of you. And all of the cliches that you hear in corporate about having accountability and personal and professional development, it really comes to life when you start your own business, and I think it's exacerbated when you take investment, because the ante is really upped. So very early on, I got an executive coach, a guy called Nick Black, an absolutely incredible individual, and he really helped me. And I remember having a conversation with him and saying, Nick, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. and he was like, yeah, but you're not supposed to have a clue what you're doing, because that's the very definition of a startup. If someone had done it before you, it wouldn't be innovative, and therefore you're supposed to not know what you're doing. And just that change of perspective just alleviated so much stress and anxiety, and it was those conversations that really enabled me to see things from a different perspective. Like the uncertainty is really difficult to deal with in when you have a startup, because you have so much vested interest. You've put your life, you've made so much sacrifice to realize this. And 10% of startups succeed at the first stage, and then of that 10% succeed at the second stage. So really, your chances of success are so small, and yet you've put everything into this, and you want it to work with every single fiber of your body. But that's a really dangerous situation to put yourself in. And Nick really helped me to dissociate from the business to a healthy degree. Did an exercise with me where he made me articulate the vision for my life, and then we worked through the goals and objectives to achieve that vision. And when I stepped back, he said, look, of the 4 goals, how many of them are entirely dependent on the success of the business? And only one of them was.
Oh,
so,
that's refreshing.
Yeah, and that made me realize that actually my entire sense of success is not pinned on the business. I have other things outside of the business that define who I am and define my success. But you have to go through those exercises to become aware. And without that, like you can find yourself sort of like under the weight of the business, and I think you can find yourself in an unmanageable situation. So my advice to anyone would be like, don't think you can do it on your own. Get support around you and invest in that heavily, because the business needs you.
Yes, and it's a classic of filling your tank and being the best version of you, and not what's just like left of you to actually continue and pursue these goals. Right, I've got 3 questions for you that I have picked from the kids pack. So question number 1, would you rather be a wizard or a ninja? It feels like such a different topic from what we've been talking about.
I think a ninja. It just feels more me. Like, I like to be in there. I like martial arts. I like fighting my way through stuff as opposed to trying to magic it away.
Yeah. I can literally just see you now getting the arms out like ninja arms, and under the, moving around the office, backflipping under the desks.
It's not far from the truth.
Question number 2. If you wrote a book, what would it be about?
Adventure and exploration.
Nice. What type of adventures do you like?
I just see life as one big adventure, and it's about personal development and growth and, becoming more aware of who you are and the impact that you have on the world and, where your efforts are best placed. And I think it's got to be about that.
Brilliant. And I definitely resonate with that. We've been talking a lot about adventure on our side. And I have to say, life is one big adventure, and it's to keep having the businesses being part of that. The business is an adventure in its own right. And it's, if it was easy, it would be boring. So these crazy challenges is actually part of this crazy adventure.
Yeah.
And a question that I ask all of our guests, if you could ask any person, dead or alive, a question, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I think going back to this topic of exploration, I would probably speak to Edmund Hillary.
Oh, yes.
Who was the first man to summit Everest. And I would ask him how he felt having completed it and whether it was his biggest achievement, because my sense is that actually, even though that is such an endeavor, actually I think he found more fulfillment from what he did following climbing Mount Everest. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned there in terms of again, mediating your ambitions and finding the most effective way of spending your time. It resonates with me a lot, and from what I've read about him, his philanthropic endeavors post Everest were more meaningful for him. So I'd love to learn more about that.
That would be fascinating. And potentially just conquering Everest was really then just the start for him.
Yeah.
And I think what resonates just from what you were saying before, it is perhaps reminding, if you think, the big goal is getting to the top of something and achieving something, it's like, actually, when you get there, it's not like that's the end.
No. And it's what, like, why you're achieving it, right? Like, I'm, like, it's so easy to get caught up in self, find yourself in this almost egotistical sort of journey of self-development, and it's important to think about, okay, like, how do I harness this energy for the benefit of other people, or for the benefit of the world? So I think it's an interesting part of the journey, and about personal development and growth. How do you pivot from just focusing on yourself to focusing on an impact that you can have elsewhere?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ben. I have absolutely loved speaking to you. And, it really is, for me, just on a personal note, I'm so proud of friends, people that I've known, grown up with, and even from a distance as well at times, to see people just doing amazing things, and I think you guys can be so proud of what you have achieved so far with Rome. And I think, it really is only the sort of beginning for you. How can people find out more about Rome?
Visit us at our website, explorerome.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Explore.rome is our handle. Or you can just contact me directly on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm more than happy to chat.
Wonderful. And I'll include those various links in the show notes. And thank you again. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information on today's guests. And if really good conversations are your thing, hit subscribe and join us next time for more business journeys, insights and banter.